Hello, this is Dr. Steve Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, relationship-development.com and humanity-upgrade.com. One of the great pleasures and advantages of what I do is I get to meet, talk to, and interview some really fascinating people. We have a couple here today who are trailblazers in the relationship field. They are about to celebrate. We're going to give them an early 50th anniversary congratulations and celebration today. That in the relationship field, that is an accomplishment in and of itself and speaks volumes. You know, I'm going to digress here a little bit. You know, they sent me their bio, their information, and they really, my sense is that they're being very circumspect and that they've been in this field for many, many years. Barry's a medically trained psychiatrist, went to medical school at USC, graduated from his residency in Oregon, and his wife is very accomplished, an Ivy League graduate, and she's going to talk a little bit more about what she does in terms of she's an RN, BSN, therapist, really an amazing couple and a very qualified couple, and we're really happy to have him. We're really fortunate and happy to have him with us today. Let me read what they sent me. And they're actually, Marianne Williams, it says, bravo to the Vissells for helping us find the connection between spirituality and relationship. I love Marianne Williamson. She is an amazing voice in this industry. Ram Das describes Joyce and Barry Vissell as a couple who live the yoga of love and devotion. They are two people deeply in love for 54 years who have raised 3 children and walked their talk. Their model of relationship and deeply heart-oriented approach have made a unique impact on many thousands of people's lives, and you're going to understand why that is here in a minute. Did I miss anything? Welcome to the call here. And that was an unusual introduction to me, but I was really excited to read all your credentials and everything else. So thanks for being here.
Thanks. The only thing you missed, and we forgot to tell you this, but our name is pronounced Vissells.
Thank you very much. Vissells. I took French, and that very good. Good for you. So that's thank you very much.
It's okay. Most people say Vissel, and it's fine. We don't care.
Gotcha. Yeah. I prefer Steven. Most people call me Steve, but I don't know who can, So let's, I really want to talk about, just tell us, give me a synopsis of what you guys do and what kind of unique insight you bring to the relationship marketplace. There's some things, and there's a whole bunch of things I really want to get into today.
Okay.
You can start.
Oh, okay. I don't know that we bring anything unique. I think what we focus on is the heart and feelings and how that is like the root of really spirituality. There's so much now. When we first wrote The Shared Heart and published it in 1984, there was hardly anything about relationship as a spiritual path, as a conscious path. Now there's so much, the market's flooded with relationship information. We like to keep it simple. We like to keep it really just about love and about connection and not really complicated. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, I think something that's unique to Barry and I is that we don't enter into leading a workshop feeling that we're better than anyone else.
That's true.
We enter in just to share what we have, and we've been through struggles and challenges, and we share these so that people don't we don't want people to look up to us, but just to feel like we're one. We're all one being. We're all in this together, learning about relationship. I think our biggest strength is that we really deeply love each other. We always have.
And we kind of feel, Stephen, that when we go into a workshop or a talk or a conference, whatever it is, we feel that the most important thing we can ever do is just love each other and feel that love. Doesn't matter what we say. If we're connected and people feel that connection, they're going to get a lot.
Yeah, no, set the example. And you guys really do, because I've read quite a few of your articles, and you're really open about the stories and the people you help and how you help them. And I highly recommend, and we'll give people more about this, but you have articles from the 90s and before. It's really amazing, really a tremendous resource. Okay. Now, what's really curious to me, my background is academic medicine. I was a foot doctor. I taught surgery for 13 years. Not that that's important, but I'm curious how in, Ivy League schools and USC and then, so how did you transition from that science to spirituality? And then I would love for you to define what you mean by spirituality, because we hear that word and it's like, it's almost hard to really nail it down, get a good definition of it.
Okay.
Wow, that's a lot of questions in one question. That was really good.
Go ahead.
You start, Barry.
Oh, okay. I always wanted you to start. We do this.
So start with how you transition from
That's
science, background to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we both have, yes, a medical background, and we learned, fortunately, when Barry was in his psychiatry training, I was working on in the same department, and the head of the department allowed me to come to a lot of the different training groups that they had as far as leading groups. So that was really wonderful, but it was all very psychologically oriented, without the spiritual. And we had since become, and we can share more about that later, really allowing the spiritual to come into our lives. So when we started our work, and it was really clear to both of us that we wanted to help people in their relationships. That's our passion in life. So we did what we were trained to do, which is this psychological approach to leading groups. And maybe we begin with a little prayer or something and end with a prayer, but the whole in between was completely void of spirituality. And we realized we needed to integrate the two into our lives. So it wasn't something that was forced. It was something that we were living. So we actually took 7 years off. We didn't count on that being 7. Barry became a regular doctor working at Kaiser, seeing patients, and we had 2 of our 3 children. But in that 7 years, it's probably, it's not like a whole lot happened, like the world would see that anything happened at all, except for the 2 beautiful daughters that we had. But we began to live the spirituality, so that then after 7 years, when we started leading groups, it was so deep within us that it was a very natural thing. The psychological, the spiritual, it all just flowed together.
Gotcha. All right, so
let me add to that if I could.
Please.
So you want a definition of spirituality, right? That's near impossible, but I'll try. When I was at USC and Joyce was there too, had as her master's, in her master's program, her preceptor was Leo Biscaglia.
The love doctor.
The love doctor. He's the one who started us on our journey. Okay? We became very, very close to him. And then he introduced us to Ram Dass, and we got involved with Ram. But the point is, I was so unhappy with the psychiatric model and the medical model. So I couldn't do that. I had to leave, and we went on a pilgrimage after psychiatry. We studied Sufism. We traveled the world. We, yoga and Hinduism, Buddhism, the roots of Judaism and Christianity. And, what we've come up with is that we know there's something more than just two people. When you're in a relationship, it's like there's another power. Some people call it God, some people call it the universe, but it's something that we know that we can plug into. And so that Joyce is not like the answer to she's not my goal. My goal is this spiritual awareness. And if I can see that one through loving Joyce, then wonderful. And the same for Joyce. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Well, yeah, I will. Is it okay to add a little bit more?
Of course, please.
So we met when we were 18 years old, just connected so deeply, so quickly.
Yeah.
And then it was 3 or 4 months after that we were having a conversation, and Barry told me about his bar mitzvah. I had no idea that he was Jewish. Barry had no idea that I wasn't Jewish. And he was raised.
Her maiden name was Wollenberg, and I thought, Goldberg, Steinberg. I didn't know.
Easy mistake to make, sure.
Right. So go ahead.
Well, and this was New York, because the East Coast. People on the West Coast don't understand this as much, but this is the East Coast. Barry was raised in a very, very traditional Jewish family. His mother was very devout, and he was raised that you marry someone who's Jewish and you have Jewish children. This is your responsibility. And so when we found out this difference, Barry took my hands,
Yes.
and he said, "We can never get married. This is too big. I must marry someone Jewish." Like, well, okay. But we're only 18. And marriage, that kind of life just seemed like forever in the future. So we continued our relationship, and it was our biggest weakness, this spirituality. We fought over it. We tried to change each other. Our parents were very, very unhappy, especially Barry's mother, and struggled, and we broke up, had a real serious breakup for 4 months, and the intensity of wanting to be together just grew and grew and grew. And of course, this was before cell phones and all that, so we really had absolutely no contact whatsoever. And we realized the love was so deep, and we got together, and it was still such a struggle. How do you get married? How do you do all that when there's such a big difference? We did get married, and we moved to Nashville and then to Los Angeles. And our relationship, after 3 years of marriage, was disintegrating because we had no we had no real depth, the spiritual depth, because it had been so painful for us. And we almost, I don't know if you want to share that, but.
Well, we didn't know the difference between religion and spirituality, you see. So we thought it was all the same thing, and we just dropped everything. And it's like throwing out the baby with the baby basket, right?
Right. Let me jump in.
Yes, yes. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me jump in for 1 second, because I just recently heard, because I've struggled with this, being a scientist. And so I heard recently in religion, because I've had some difficult experiences with that topic. Somebody said that religion has answers you can't question, and spirituality talks about questions that have no definite answers. Is that something that can you comment on that? I just want to kind of focus in, because as I'm watching you talking, it's almost like this was 50 years ago, 54 years ago, but the depth and the feeling of it is still with you now. And it's really interesting to see how you made progress through this, and how you define spiritual relationship.
Mm.
If you can define, maybe it's not definable, or
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
so anyway, our relationship almost ended, and we realized in order to really have it back, we had to have spirituality. And I wasn't going to become Jewish, and Barry wasn't going to be Protestant, wasn't going to come to church with me. And so this spiritual quest of all these different religions, and what we found from it is this common thread, this powerful presence of love that exists in all religions and all spiritual paths. And it's something that we draw upon every single day. And so spirituality, which was our greatest weakness, is absolutely our greatest strength.
The image that comes to me, Stephen, is it's like we are learning to. It's almost like you plug an appliance into the socket, right, and to power it. Well, we're learning to plug in, to something that's bigger than us, and we do that every day. We meditate together, we pray together for this divine presence, this divine source, this higher power. It's so many names for the same thing, that can actually help us and bless us, and we can trust. We can trust. So, when you get to that place where you're starting to really trust in the universe, that what happens is for a reason, that we're not alone, that's kind of like our loose definition of spirituality.
Okay, beautiful. And actually it comes through more in your persona and the two of you together than maybe in the words that you're speaking, because you can really feel a really beautiful energy, even though it's over the video. I feel it, and so I'm sure that people who view this. All right, there's some getting through this. This is beautiful. Getting through this, there's some things. I did a lot of reading. I was reading about when you guys were together I think in Oregon, and you guys worked together every day, and people was telling you shouldn't be together. You're together. You love each other too much. It's really it's kind of funny. And I'm saying, is really? And now that I see you two together, I see why they said that. Yeah, it's beautiful. Good for you. So, all right.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And again, I was listening. There was a psychologist from Yale. I follow him. His name is Paul Bloom. And he was saying recently, and this just struck me like a thunderbolt, and I'm curious what your reaction is to this. And then I want to get into some of your content, because I just really love it. So you guys have been doing this for 50 years or whatever it is, almost 50 years. He said to me that what he said in an interview I was listening to is that our understanding of human behavior is pre-Copernican. There's so much we don't understand about human behavior and human relationships. Do you feel that he's accurate, or do you have any comment on something like that? He said that psychology, unlike chemistry and physics, is a very, very difficult discipline to really get a complete handle on. Is he accurate? Is he off base? I'm curious to hear what your comments on that are.
Okay, let me just tell you that when I was finished with psychiatry, okay, I was running away. Okay, we met a teacher. We were sent to her actually. Her name was Pearl Doris, a little woman with I think she had maybe a high school degree, and she talked with a lisp, and she was in Mount Shasta. And we went into her living room and sat with her, and she took a look at me and she said, "Wow, you have a lot to unlearn."
Okay.
And she said, "You, Barry, are way too much in your head, and you need to make this journey down here." And that journey of maybe whatever it is, a foot, right, has taken years and years, and I'm still on that journey. And so you're asking about psychology. When we're in a group, or when we're seeing a couple in counseling, or whoever, when we're working with people, what my work is to do is to get out of my head and to listen, because there's another voice right here. It's a very quiet voice, but it's an intuitive voice, and it guides me, and it guides Joyce too. Joyce has always been actually better than me at this, but I had to learn how to come from my heart and just to listen, because the training tells me one thing, and the psychological theory tells you one thing, but my heart says something very different, and I choose to go with that. And so I'm amazed at then how fast it zeroes in on the important issues.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And so, I mean, especially with Barry, because studying psychiatry and part of that is making a
diagnosis.
A diagnosis.
Yeah.
So, and that goes, so you do that in your work, but then it kind of goes into your everyday life, and you're meeting someone, you're diagnosing them. And I mean, I think that's what psychiatrists do, just, they don't tell people. But
Right.
she said, as long as you judge someone, as long as you put them into a box, you'll never be able to help them. And people are only going to really feel safe when they can feel that you love them, when you can accept them.
And that you're not above them.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That you're just right there, and you're seeing them. Yeah. And so I think that's what we do.
So that's and I can, where you're coming, both of you being traditionally medically trained, and especially it's that whole paradigm of let's find out what the problem is, the diagnosis. And my journey has always been an intellectual one, and I have to unlearn that in many, many aspects of my life. So I did. So I think that really comes to one of the main themes in a lot of your work is vulnerability. And how do you help people? What is that journey for people to become more vulnerable and open in a relationship? I think that's a major goal of your training.
Yeah. Did you want to start?
You start with that.
Okay. Vulnerability has become one of the central parts of our work. It's true. In every workshop, especially with couples workshops, as you know, we're learned from childhood to hide our weakness, to hide our fear, to hide our doubts, to hide the parts of ourselves that are not strong, right? And I certainly learned that growing up in Brooklyn, New York. If I showed fear in the streets of Brooklyn, New York, back in the 50s, I'd get beaten up. And so, I learned how to hide that. And what most people do then in relationship is they show each other or try to show each other just the adult part, just the strong, I've got it handled part, and not the part that's insecure or afraid. I mean, here's an example of vulnerability. We've been together a long time, and we're 72, and truth is, we don't know how much longer we're going to have. And I notice in myself that I'm afraid sometimes. What if Joyce dies before me? That's my fear. What would life be like? I sometimes envision that happening. And it's possible. I could die before her, but if she died before me, sometimes it feels like I'd be like, in a way, like a lost little child trying to learn my way through life, even though my head knows that, of course, I'll be okay, I'll manage. But you see, there's that vulnerable part. And to be honest with that, when we share that part, that not together, that weak part, that fearful, childhood part, it actually draws us closer to our partner. And it's a secret that most people don't know. Vulnerability actually is attractive, and it makes you closer.
I agree. And my intellectual brain is going, if more people could realize that it is temporary, all relationships are temporary on some level, they would enjoy them more, and that again, that being aware of that. Did you want to talk on vulnerability, Joyce? Because I have a whole bunch of other things we want to talk about.
Well, so in every workshop we do, we work with vulnerability, and especially with couples workshops, and we find that vulnerability can help a couple heal in places where they're absolutely stuck. So just a quick example, there was a couple that came to us. We do workshops on the East Coast as well, and the man had an emotional affair, and the woman, his wife, found out, and they had been a very solid couple up till this point. And so they went into counseling, and he did all the steps that you're supposed to do. He ended the relationship, and all the different steps, but they still weren't close. There was just a distance that they couldn't get back to that really beautiful love that they had. And so in doing the vulnerability and we do it as a whole group, and everyone shares, and so it really builds, because these people are sharing these very, very vulnerable things, and it opens people to go into depths that they might not really realize are even there. And so the man that had the emotional affair, he broke down and he cried, and he said, "I feel so ashamed that I caused my wife so much pain." And that was it. And she wrapped her arms around him, and she said, that's what I needed. I needed that so much, to be able to really come into a healed place with you, because they had done everything from the mind, and so it's very very powerful.
So some of the work, a lot of the work that you do is you talk about the inner child. And now, again, the intellectual doctor side of me says, well, let's not look to the past. Let's just move forward. Tell me your experience with that. And then there's another big topic I want to get to. So let's, this is exciting to have you here. So, this is really nice. So the inner child, and then you refer to something which I wasn't aware of the terminology. It was called reparenting.
Right.
Comment on that for a minute, because that was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, this ties in with vulnerability. Did you want to start, or?
Well, maybe I will.
You should start.
Because,
Yes.
So just in our own relationship. So as a child, I'm a really sensitive person, and I was feeling a lot in my family, and my family was a family where grades were important, how well you did in school and study, and that's what you did. And my parents didn't really know what to do with. I was able to do those things, but I also was feeling so much and so sensitive to everything that was going on. And so my dad in particular, and I know this was out of love, but he would say, you've got to get over this. And he treated it like it was an affliction as much as if I were blind or deaf. It was something you must get over. You're not going to make it in the world being like this. This is not really okay. And so I by the time I reached my 20s, I felt severely handicapped because of all these feelings. And I'd walk in a room and I'd feel so much. And so meeting Barry, you were able to hold me in all these feelings and say words that I'd never heard as growing up, that you're well, you should say them.
Oh, I feel this right now, that Joyce, your sensitivity has actually been the greatest gift to me. It's allowed me to be more sensitive. And also your sensitivity is needed in the world. When we're teaching a group together, Joyce will feel things that are not being said very deeply, and I miss some of these things, and I need that. I need your sensitivity.
So thank you.
Yeah.
So it's helped me so, because it's a wound from my childhood. So it was a very loving family, and yet that was a deep wound. And Barry, has been able to reach right in and really hold that place. And then, so that's the reparenting, is to give me those words that I needed. But you have something totally different.
Yeah. So it's on my side. I did mention that I get beaten up if I showed fear. I got beaten up even when I didn't show fear. And sometimes it was my parents, sometimes it was on the street, other children, whatever it was. What I'm realizing is I actually have PTSD, okay? If I'm honest with myself, I have all the symptoms of PTSD from physical violence in my childhood, okay? And I could say, like what you said in the beginning, that's the past, right? I don't have to deal with that, it's the past. But the problem is, it still manifests. It manifests today in my hyper alertness, in my, like, a fear that somebody's gonna all of a sudden attack me, right? So it's in there, even though I know better. And how Joyce reparents me is by just holding me not as a man. That's the key here. And we have people do this, couples do this in workshops. She holds me the way a parent would hold a little boy. And she tells me that I never deserved ever to be hit. And I listen to that, even though my adult mind knows this, I listen as a little child. And that's what makes the difference. That's the reparenting. That's how we help heal each other from trauma, from wounding. So that's the importance of inner child work.
Yeah. It's I'm sorry you had to go through that. That's, hopefully the world is changing and young kids don't have to deal with that. I didn't. Yeah, that's very difficult.
Yeah, it was a different time.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So you really like, it's not really getting complete with it. It's actually having somebody almost parent you the way you should have been parented to begin with.
And it feels good.
Yeah, and that's a really fascinating concept. I've been around this industry for 25 years, and that's great.
Okay, so we do offer some new things.
No, yeah. The we could probably go on for a couple of weeks here, but I do want to get to something really important. And you talk a lot about loving yourself, and this is an issue that's up for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you have somebody come to your seminar or your workshops, and they say, "Oh, I just hate myself. I can't stand myself. I don't love myself. I'm not worth." How do you guide somebody? I don't know if we can do this here in 5 minutes, but how do you help somebody work their way through that?
So you start, Barry.
No, okay. Well, if somebody comes and they say, I hate myself, and if they're willing to start the process of learning to love themselves, then you can do something, right? It's like, how many psychologists to change the light bulb? You can't change the light bulb unless it wants to be changed, right? Okay. But if a person is willing to, and they recognize the importance of learning to love themselves, because what we know is if we don't love ourselves, we can't love another. That's what we know. If we don't love ourselves, we can't even let the love in from another. So we can't give or receive. Just knowing that sometimes starts the process. Whatever you do, whatever a person can do, whether it's, they know that maybe they love walking in nature, but they don't allow themselves to do that. Well, if they choose to take that nice, beautiful walk in nature as an act of loving themselves, right? It makes a difference. Because there's no way I can love Joyce or she can love me unless we love each other and we take care of ourselves. Which, for us, that's meditation. It's like I said, plugging into the divine outlet, right? It's plugging into something higher and realizing that there's something bigger here, and that maybe the feeling I am loved. It's just, go ahead.
And so, all right, so say if there's a group of 12 people, it would be very rare if 11 people were totally at peace with themselves and one person was totally not. What we find is that of those 12 people, everyone has some element in their life that they can't love and accept about themselves, but they put up, really strong front, I'm together, I love myself, which, that's okay. But if you set, we try and just set a really, really very safe environment so that people can go deeper than that and find these things that they're not at peace with. And Barry and I had the very great, it was a very great blessing when we were 30 and 31. We got to have 2 years of, Ramdas actually moved and lived very, very close to where we live. And he saw us every week or every other week in counseling. It was incredible. It was for free. It was amazing. And sometimes it would go on for 3 or 4 hours and very in depth. And what he would do is he would just sit there and look at us. He wouldn't say a word. And whatever within us, that we weren't at peace with, would come out. It was just like we almost couldn't help it. And what he would say is that the energy it takes to hide something, to hide an insecurity, like to hide it behind your back and just present this really strong image, that energy of hiding it is too great. And if you can bring it up and look at it and really make a friend of that part of yourself. This, all right, this is part of me, and I can love this. Then that which you've been trying to hide becomes part of your power and who you are as an individual. So we work a lot with that. We have people get into small groups and share what it is that they feel insecure about. And oh my gosh, we've heard amazing stories from people.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And these are doctors, they're dentists, they're highly successful people, lawyers. They're that put what they put to the world is totally together, and yet if given a safe space, there's I think there's things in all of us, really. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it sounds like I think what you're saying is once you can get somebody to be vulnerable, they can start to unload those insecurities, and no matter who they are, and yeah.
Because exactly the hiding is the number one enemy, right? When you hide your insecurities, when you hide your vulnerability, it actually breeds shame, and shame is a killer. It's a killer.
Yes. You guys are really, you really are very thought-provoking, which, again, I'm 60 years old. I'm not young. I'm not old. But, there's a lot to learn from the two of you, of course. All right. We could go on for a long time. I do want to talk about one last thing. And, coming from a psychiatrist and a nurse, when people talk about miracles, how do you deal with people? And I might even include myself in this group where, religion hasn't really done things for us. And, when you start talking about miracles, yet I think people want miracles in their life, however you define that. So go into what you mean by miracles and how people can really get on, with the right path. We're going to talk about your resources and those kinds of things. But yeah, but especially like, these non-believers and, atheists, and there's this militant atheism out in the world now. So tell us how you help people, especially like you talk about prayers, and just get into that for us, and then we'll bring things to a close.
Well, you start again.
How much time do we have?
You need a week, right?
Yes.
No, but go ahead.
No, but really, how much time?
We probably have another like 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes. Okay. We believe, and we wrote a book about this, okay? It's called Meant to Be. We believe that every couple is a miracle, okay? We believe that most people don't even know what miracles are. Miracles are just unexplained things. You can't explain them, right?
Sure.
Your senses register one thing, but something happens that's not according to your senses. That's a miracle. And I mean, our life is filled with miracles, and we write about them in all of our books. So, I mean, it's okay. If you don't believe in miracles, you don't have to. Believe in love, okay? Because love is a miracle. To be able to feel love is a miracle. That's what I feel, okay? To just open to this abundant feeling of goodness in the universe. That's a miracle. I don't know what else to say. I'm trying to be short.
But he said you have 10 minutes to.
You say something, Joyce.
So go ahead.
The way we met was a complete miracle. Just to be in a little snapshot, when Joyce was 9 years old, she was crying in her room because everybody said she was too sensitive. And she actually heard a voice that she couldn't explain. And the voice said, when you grow up, you're going to meet someone and he's going to understand your sensitivity. And he will be tall with dark hair and he will be on his way to being a doctor. A voice told her this.
Right.
Right? How do you explain that? You can't.
Joyce, what happened to the dark hair?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Well, it was dark for many years.
You still look like yours.
Yes.
It's the camera, believe me.
Okay, but so meanwhile, I'm in high school and I'm a bit of a delinquent in some ways, and I don't really apply myself, but I know that I want to go to medical school, and I get rejected by all the colleges, and I'm suffering in the end of high school with no college to go to. A man shows up at my high school, Sleepy Hollow High School in Tarrytown, New York.
Yeah.
Okay, and this man shows up, and I get called in the office, and he takes a few minutes and introduces himself that he represents Hartwick College in Oneonta, New York, and would I like to go there? And I go, what? And, because my grades weren't so great, and yet on the table is an application for Hartwick that's all filled out with all my personal information that I didn't fill out. And I signed my name, and I'm going to Hartwick, and I believe it was because Joyce was at Hartwick and we met right away. I needed to be kind of guided by some unfathomable energies. And so, at Hartwick, Joyce heard the story about this man and said, Barry, go into the office and thank them for recruiting you. So I went to the office. Of course, the answer is nobody knew anything about this man, and Hartwick never, ever has recruited anyone. So it was a total mystery. So, to me, that's a complete miracle.
But the thing of it is that we lived with this for so many years.
Right.
Just taking it for granted.
Right.
Oh yeah, this man came and no one knows who he is, but he directed you there, and this voice spoke to me. And I think that people with miracles, they live with them, and so it becomes something they take. Yeah, that happened. It doesn't seem until you really pay attention, and you realize when you said our life is filled with miracles, it's just trying to pay attention to even the smallest things.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, as you study more and more science and you start to understand, it's a miracle that we're even here. And it really is amazing. Well, this has been phenomenal. I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you putting another book out anytime soon? Do you have anything in the works, or?
We have 2 new books out this year. Okay. And it's the 2 books, To Really Love a Man and To Really Love a Woman. 2 companion volumes.
Oh, very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite you back now in a few months, and what we'll do is I want to read those books, and then maybe we can do another interview, because that'd be wonderful, because you guys are absolutely wonderful.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, we have all your social media, your website. We're going to have it all listed on here. I know you guys do regular workshops. I'm going to encourage people to look on your site for those workshops. I know you just got back from Norway. You go all over the world, so that's really amazing. You guys are absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's just such a joy. It's such a joy to be able to share this time with you. even in this video across the country format. You have been absolutely wonderful. Anything else? Anything you want to say in closing that we missed?
Well,
I do. What?
Go ahead.
Well, you're a wonderful interviewer. You're fantastic.
Yes.
Really, truly.
That's sweet.
And not all interviewers are so good.
Right.
We've had some very poor experiences.
Right.
But what I want to share with regards to relationship, and this is what we share with all the couples or anyone we know that gets married, or even if we just randomly see a couple, and we like to tell them to make their relationship the priority in their life, more than their work. It may not take as much time, but to really have your heart, this is where your heart is with your relationship. And even having children, we've had 3 children, adore them, but they never were more important than this. And that was a challenge because they're so cute and they require so much. Raising a child is a lot, but we always, this love is the most important. This is why our children came to us, is this love, to make it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, your work flourishes, your health flourishes, and it just feels like everything will flourish if you keep this love the most important.
Yeah, that is a great way. That's beautiful advice, because I agree with 1,000%. You just make each other a real priority, and
yes,
have that one safe place in any storm that you can count on. And there's nothing greater in life than to have that. I totally agree. Yeah. Thanks again, guys. This is Dr. Stephen Cangiano, President and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events, signing off with the Vissells. They're going to be back. Thanks for joining us.